Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where Dr. Janine Krause, that's me, gives you, a health junkie, a weekly dose of tools to help you increase your energy and resilience to life's stressors. Hey, health junkies, welcome to another episode of the Health Fix. I have Kathlina, the allergy chef, back on because there's so many things allergy that I had to talk about that we just couldn't get it done in one episode. So she's back for more. So Kathlina, thanks for coming back on the Health Fix podcast.
It's my pleasure. And you're right. Like, I feel like we could do this every month for the next 5 years and we'd be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I really do. And, so many people are struggling. So I just looked at some data that I had kind of compiled a while back, and it was like over 60% of Americans have food allergies or intolerances undiagnosed. So
yeah,
check this out.
So that's the thing. Like we know the official diagnosis number of food allergy, right? And because food intolerance by some doctors are completely dismissed, we don't even have a really good lay of the land. But we know like 1 in 5 has this, 1 in 12 has this, 1 in 16, all of that, none of that is normal. And yet as a society, we've like just accepted that it is, and everybody's on a pill for every ill. And I'm kind of like, so I realize you've got this thing, right? And I respect that you have this thing, but has anybody actually talked to you about food and root causes? Because do you actually have that thing, or is that thing a symptom of just removing a couple of things, right? It's even, I'm sure you've seen this where people think that they are gluten sensitive, but they actually have a problem with glyphosate, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, there's all these interconnected things where it's like, do you really have this problem, or is it this other thing? And I want to believe, I'd say at least 50%, if not more, of all people who were on some kind of medication, who were seeing these doctors regularly, could all eliminate their problems with a change of diet, like a diet unique to their needs, And then of course, working on root causes, because I'm sure for that 50%, a good amount have a root cause that if addressed, they could go to, eating a normal diet. But then of course, we have to talk about the fact that should anybody be eating most of the food in conventional grocery stores? Like, oh my goodness, no. Like some of those ingredients, I'm like, you shouldn't even give that to your dog. Like, why are we as consumers not demanding better? Which I know I know I'm so off topic and we're only in the first 5 minutes, and yet I feel like it's still on topic because I look at some of the stuff in these stores and I'm going, nobody should be eating this. Right? In fact, let's ask ourselves, why is it that in the baby aisle, we're like organic this, organic that, organic this, organic that? And as soon as your kid is big enough to sit in the front of the cart, all of a sudden they are plastered with fruit gummies, Pop-Tarts, and Fruit Loops, right? It's all these colorful boxes to trick the child into being like, can we have this? Can we have this? Like, we know that this is like a psychological war on children in a grocery store. I've seen it, right? It's crazy. And then of course, people don't want a big scene. So they're like, okay, you can have it. Not realizing they're literally getting their kids hooked on foods that are designed to hijack their brains, right? And it's like, it's a lifelong problem at that point,
Yeah, so. It's mind blowing. Like I was lucky enough to have what I would call a hippie mom who was like, okay, we're gonna go and like my junk food was twigs and sticks. And really what that is like sesame sticks that we got at the natural food store. And okay, like nobody wanted to trade food with me. They were like, I don't know what you're eating, but I don't want it. And sadly, like I'd see these people with Oreos and be like, oh, I'd like to try that. And my mom would always, right? I'm like, why do you eat that stuff? You're gonna die. And you don't get it because that's what we're programmed for. Like the green yogurts that are out there, the ones that look like boogers from Harry Potter or whatever. I think there's actually gummies that are like, yeah, jelly beans that like there's a vomit one. Like I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
We're eating this. And then we get to adults and then we're not even reading the labels. And like, yeah, I'm like, I spent the longest time at the grocery store because I always read every label. And if there's something new, I'm going to look at it and read the label because chances are, someone's going to want it or in my practice and want to know about it. So I read, but oh, man, no, it's crazy how marketing and I used to work for a nonprofit way back, like some decade plus long ago, that we did a whole campaign on trying to get folks to pay attention to this factor. But the sad reality is people still have that concept of like kid food. That's what kids eat. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just kid food, it's convenience, right? And there's this underlying trust that people don't realize they shouldn't be giving to the grocery stores. If it's in a store, it's not bad for me. Like the grocery store wouldn't sell me something that's bad for me. Therefore, it's all okay to eat. And I understand that concept, and I wish people could have that idea in their head, but most grocery stores are not looking out for you. They're looking out for their bottom line.
No, that's why the milk is in the far back, people.
Right.
They want you to see everything. And then those end caps. And then, like, when you check out, Lord, they
Yeah.
want kids to like throw a tantrum. So you buy 5 things to shut them up. Oh,
It's
man.
true. Notice they don't put like, immune boosting foods at the checkout line. They're not putting apples there for kids to grab. It's candy bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we have things with multiple ingredients, which leads us to kind of talking today, because I came into the podcast today, folks, all like, hey, I corned myself. And what the heck does that mean? I'm always testing to see if my food intolerances are still there and seeing what happens to my body. And so I told Kathleen I came into this podcast today having had an organic tortilla chip situation yesterday that threw me into a lot of pain and a lot of anger and gut issues today. And mood is so important.
I've got to know, how many chips did you eat?
I ate at least 15. That
Okay.
I was trying to count, but then I was cooking dinner at the same time, which, folks, is not a smart move if you're trying to do things. But I know that 12 is 1 ounce, and I know I ate more than that because I got distracted on my thing. But yeah,
Okay.
I ate about 15 of them, and that was like,
Yeah. No, I think it's important to know because, you know, obviously, first and foremost, you have to be at a place where you've healed enough to even test out, like, can I even try out these items? I know for me, it took, I think it was like 5 to 6 years before my gut was in enough repair to even reasonably consider trialing some stuff, right? And then, of course, you have to choose items that number one, are not going to kill you. For those of you that have life-threatening food allergies, I do not suggest trying something like I would never try corn or sesame or certain like there are certain things for me that are just forever off the table. Even I always joke, even if somebody created like a cure for it all tomorrow, like some like crazy magic pill, I still wouldn't eat certain things just on principle. I'd be like, hard pass. So there's certain things, you, and you have to do what's best for you. And then of course, you have to think about what have you eaten in the past that caused you the least amount of pain, because that's always a good starting point. There are certain foods that are just generally less allergenic than others, like blackberries, for example, much, much lower allergenic and intolerance rate than other fruits, right? So there are certain things where you can pick wisely and then test it out and keep really good track. You really do have to be a good scientist about it, though. There should only be one variable. You should be tracking everything: sleep, restroom, mood, gut, just every single thing. And then, of course, you have to do it in varying amounts, right? Like, for some of you, for like me and you, we know what we can get away with. Like, if you can do 15 chips, more power to you, right? For some people, you've got to start with one chip, like literally one chip, and that's it. Did you do okay with the one? And if so, you could jump to 2 or 5 or, whatever number makes sense at that point. But you're kind of doing varying amounts. And then, of course, you're also varying how often you do this test. Like, are you the type who needs to test every 4 days, every 7 days, every day? Like, there's a whole system of checks and balances that have to be done. And it's going to be unique to your case. And the thing is like, you can't rush it either, right? Like, there's this idea of, well, let me go out to, some burger joint and have a burger. Okay, hold on. That's like 42 ingredients.
right.
Like, which one was the culprit, So it's a matter of making these really wise choices and then seeing like, what can I reintroduce? And, if you're working on root causes, especially where food intolerance is concerned, not necessarily allergy, like that's a different conversation. Not that it can't be a conversation, but it's different. When you're working on that and you've gotten yourself to that point, you very well be able to like reintroduce 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 foods, right? But it's going to take you a year or two. Knowing that going in, I think, is important. Like, I would never want to give someone false hope and be like, well, yeah, in 6 months, you're going to be able to eat everything again. Like, no, you're not. Like, let's look at this reasonably, So.
Yeah. Especially when there's a lot of allergy situation going on, because now you're looking at a seriously leaky gut, and gut lining has to be repaired, in that situation. Now, what I'm dealing with here, folks, just so you get a little background on me, I'm definitely food intolerant. I know that it's not an IgE, so immediate sensitivity reaction. It's an IgG, and it's been one that's kind of plagued me for probably the last 6 years, 5, 6 years. And so I test a little bit at a time to see, could I eat out and be okay? Okay, that was like way back in the day. Now I'm like, all right, we've got these organic sprouted corn chips that have that, and then they had safflower oil, which I know I do okay with, even if it's fried. I'm like, okay, I'm good there because they are chips. And then there's salt and lime, and I'm okay with those. So I had to like break it down, because most tortilla chips don't have just 4 ingredients. You have to
Yeah.
look and see like how many freaking ingredients are in things. So this is me like further out, but also giving you a little perspective that it's
Now, do you ever test with just straight corn out
yeah,
of curiosity?
yeah.
Okay.
And if it's organic and it's on the cob kind of situation, and I pull it off the cob, I'm good.
Okay.
But if it's like packaged frozen, sometimes there'll be issues on that, and can forget it. Not that who wants to eat canned corn anyways, but I tried it just to try and see what happened, because I'm always playing with things. But yeah, I'm fine with that. But now, can I eat more than like I grew up in Illinois, close to the Wisconsin border. We love our corn on the cob. Like, it's a thing. So I've tried two. Good. If I eat like 3 or 4, I'm in trouble. And I can't like do the like dip it in butter kind of situation and roast it and the whole nine.
Okay.
There's
But
others.
see, I think that that's an important part of your story in that, straight corn, for those of you who might be listening who are like, oh, I want to test to see if I can have XYZ, right? Start with the actual ingredient, not necessarily something that's made from it,
Yes.
because straight corn is way different than a corn chip in that, it's the quality of the corn. It's not only that, but like, when you're dealing with large, massively produced foods, they're not necessarily always going to be getting the ingredient from the same farm, right? So now you're dealing with like different growing practices and different this, and like there's so many variables. Plus, it's, how it was produced, what brand of safflower oil did they use, and what brand of salt did they use, and, was the line, there's so many questions that you have to ask yourself. And so, starting with the straight ingredient would always be the best way just to start, and then kind of say, okay, now that I can do this, like if it were me, not that I would ever test corn, but if it were me, I would actually start with straight corn. And
Mhm.
I'd be one of those people who got it like, from some heirloom farmer and, all the organics and all that stuff, right? And then if I found that I could eat that farmer's corn safely, I would then buy like a small mill at home, like one of those really small ones. I'd mill the corn myself, and then I would start making my own. Like, can I eat a corn tortilla? Like, can I have that much corn in one setting if I make it myself from the safe corn? Can I do corn chips if I do it myself, in a safe oil? If I could do all those things safely, then I would consider a packaged version after that. So for those of you listening who might be like, yeah, I want to try a corn chip, like, no, actually, you don't. You want to start with just corn, and you want to work your way up to a corn chip.
Absolutely hugely important kind of thing. And yes, folks, this is kind of where it's been over the years as things have evolved over time.
Right.
Because yes, my practice is always like, okay, let's find something closest to the natural form. And we try that. Now, I was taught like 72 hours, but you were mentioning like up to a week or even more. And sometimes I've had people do one thing a month
Yeah.
to to see how you feel. And then we kind of go go from there. But I love that you're talking about how to test it and then create your own stuff, which folks, yes, for sure. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about some of the experiments you've had of testing things and how you felt, because I think that it's important for folks to realize that, how, just like you were saying, like, yeah, I might be like, why am I more sensitive now than I was before? It seems like everything bothers me. And I do get that from a lot of patients too, who are doing this, and they're like, why? I've taken things out and now I'm more sensitive when I try things. Will you shed a little light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what a lot of people don't understand is that once you get your system clean, for a lot of people, you end up reacting harder and faster once your system is clean, right? And it's kind of like, I think a great analogy would be cleaning the windshield of your car, right? When
Mhm.
it's really dirty and you've got like, you can only see a little bit, like, your reaction time might be a little bit slower or things are different. And then suddenly, when you go and get that car wash and it's all super clean, you're like, whoa, look at all the details. I'm driving in high def, right? And it's like that for the human body at times, when your system is so overloaded with, like, let's take somebody with, let's take a 35 intolerances plus 3 food allergies, right? And undiagnosed, but totally symptomatic, but for whatever reason, not life threatening. Okay. Um, they are plagued with symptoms. Okay. They feel like trash every day. It's awful. And it's because, like, at that point, they don't know what's going on. And for their body, it's just everything is causing a problem, to a certain degree. And then, of course, they're taking these foods out. They're essentially getting that car wash. Now that their body can see clearly, it's like every time that invader comes in, the body's like, oh, there it is, quick, grab it, and the body can react harder and faster because the windshield is clean. It can see everything in high def and it can take care of you, or at least think it's taking care of you. That's the kicker, right? Like, the
Yeah.
body thinks it's helping us every time we eat an apple, but maybe it just needs to, like, take a chill pill, right? And so um that's really what it's about. And so, for myself, I don't trial a lot of stuff on myself only because I've got an amazing memory. So for me, it's like I just think about a food and I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, because I just think about the last time I ate it, I'm like, hard pass, right? Um, and for me, it's a matter of taking a combination of real world experiences plus all of my testing results. And, there are certain foods, like I said, are always going to be off the table, corn, sesame, bell pepper, etc. I have certain rules for myself. Anything that causes any sort of throat problems, automatically off the table. Like, I'm just not going to play that game. Um, there are certain pain levels for myself where if something crosses a certain threshold, I'm done. Like, I'm not even going to try to retrial, like, hard pass. Um, so a good example of something that I have trialed would be salmon,
Mhm.
because there used to be a salmon that I thought I could eat safely. I got it from this fishmonger who, like, lived in, I don't know, Missouri, Montana. No, he wasn't from Montana. I don't know, somewhere out there. And really cool dude. And he safely served the corn-free community. So I knew it was a good option. And I had his product, I don't know, a few times. And I want to believe I had it safely. Looking back, maybe I just didn't and I didn't realize it. But I've got this other company that I'm pretty sure can serve me safely. And I've tried theirs. And it's been a couple of different reactions, but one of the overwhelming ones is I basically just kind of pass out. It's like you're up one moment, the next you're out for hours. And so, like, did it kill me? No. Is it good for me? Probably not. So
Mhm.
it's, each person's going to be different. Some people feel like there are certain reactions that are, supposedly worth it. And my only cautionary tale to you is that while it may seem worth it, then you're dealing with buildup responses and then, of course, breaking down your body over time. If your body isn't still responding properly, maybe that's the red flag. Like, hey, we still have some underlying groundwork to do, because if you keep poking the bear's going to poke back, right? And I don't wish that on anyone,
No, no, I mean, it's definitely, you have to make your choice, like yay or nay. And interestingly enough, on salmon, I've heard salmon quite a few times from people. And a lot of people will kind of go down the, like, oh, maybe it's a sulfur pathway, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I'm like, no, maybe it's what they're fed. And it's interesting
Right.
you brought that up because a lot of people aren't thinking about, oh, wait, did I eat a farm raised salmon or did I eat a wild salmon? And even with wild salmon,
Exactly.
who
Now,
knows?
here's the thing about salmon and all fish in general. Farming 10 years ago was awful. Like, 10 years ago, I don't think anyone should have been eating farmed fish, period. Right. Fast forward to now, I think there are some farms that are doing an amazing job, but it's still not enough for some people. Right. The quality of farmed fish has increased amazingly. It's way more sustainable. It's way more closer to the natural habitats, et cetera. You're still going to have the bad apples in the bunch, and good luck finding them and avoiding them. Like, that's the hard part. That's the name of the game. But even wild, it's like we've contaminated our ecosystems in every, region, in every way. We look at all the different things and it's like, oh my goodness, and it, at first it's easy to think that these systems are not interconnected, but then it's like you look at textile manufacturing in a third world country where maybe lots of coconuts are produced, right? And we look at how their water systems are completely contaminated. We look at how their air is contaminated at this point because, we're doing all these things. And then, of course, we're like, oh, let's use coconut water, coconut milk, coconut this, coconut that. Cool. Where'd you get your coconuts from? Right? Like there are these systems that feel not connected, but are totally connected. It's like how they put walnuts in car tires. People never make the association. I know I wouldn't, right? Soy and brake lines for your car. I wouldn't think about that. But if you've got a severe soy allergy, being a car mechanic might be a problem, right? These systems don't seem connected, and yet they're totally connected. And it's just like, so sometimes I look at the world and I'm like, man, we've got so much work to do. Like so much work. Like just on a global scale. So much work.
Yeah, no, with like supply chains and thinking about things. I think well, the problem is we disconnected from where things come from. And then we complicated it by making it cheaper and things of that nature. But I think it's important. I think it's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about is like what we're, like you had said, what were the fish fed? And now, yes, we're getting better. Probably the next question would become, what would you say at this point, and in your opinion for yourself, what is the safest fish that you can eat? Is there one?
So there is one, and it's gross. It's wild caught Alaskan cod.
Like the link cod?
Yeah, no, it was like a white Alaskan cod. And the texture is disgusting. It's awful. Like, I hate it. I eat it maybe once a quarter just to make myself feel better about having something, and like I have to prepare it in the weirdest of ways to make it palatable. Like, it's so bad. Like, so bad. I cannot stress how bad it is. And then of course I feel like an awful person because I'm like, hello, it's it's something you could eat. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like so bad, and it's just like, yeah, whereas like say bison, right? I can eat a bison steak and be fine, right? Like it doesn't taste bad, it doesn't feel bad, like it's fine. Whereas with this particular cod, you'd have to like dress it up, but I don't have the ability to dress it up. Therefore, I'm just eating something that's not cool. Like, whereas I know there are other varieties of cod that are way better, but I don't have a safe version for me. So it's like, I'm stuck with this safe awfulness and I just can't. Like, I know that sounds awful, but like, I just can't.
No, I mean, it's reality because a lot of people that come into my office who have multiple intolerances or allergies will be like, I don't enjoy food. There's nothing I like it. It's because we haven't experimented enough to find something first and foremost, and then don't force yourself to eat stuff you don't like because of course it's going to get this whole downward spiral. And so you kind of brightened it up and you're like, well, but I do like bison. You know? And it does.
I want to touch on this though, because I think you've said something so important to anyone listening who feels like perhaps you have an ingredient that you don't like. For that cod, I used at least 6 different tools and at least 6 different preparation methods. I used a lot of different methods on that cod before I finally said to myself, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Right. I think it is so important. I look around our kitchen and we've got a dehydrator. We've got an ice cream maker with a compressor built in. We've got a Nutrimilk for processing all sorts of ingredients. We've got 3 KitchenAids, like why 3? It's a long story. We've got all the pasta attachments. We've got, the killer Vitamix and the dry thingy so you can do the thing. We've got a proper deep fryer with filtration systems. Like, not that I tell people they should be deep frying every day, but I think if you like it, I think you should have a deep fryer. We've got 2 pressure cookers, a giant food processor, 2 immersion blenders, an air fryer. Like, I have every tool, you guys, every tool out there. Why? Because when you take every tool plus your seasoning cabinet, I'm talking infinite number of combinations here, folks. I was just working on an article about apples and all the different ways. Like, not only do we have like the apple itself, you have in some regions up to 55 different variety of apples. Now we have at least 40 different ways to prepare them and all these different recipes, what do you end up with? Thousands of combinations here. So please don't tell me you don't like your safe apple until you've truly explored whether or not you really like safe apples, right? Have you tried making anything besides just apple pie? Like maybe you just hate apple pie. Did you make fruit leather? Did you try apple parmesan pasta? Like, have you tried it all and really come to the conclusion you don't like apples? Or did you try it like two different ways and just say, I don't like apples? Like, what did you actually do? That's the real challenge because I think there's so many ways to prepare food. It's like white rice or even, okay, like let's say brown rice is your safe ingredient. Brown rice on its own, like who wants to eat that? I wouldn't. Like, would you? Like, be honest.
No.
No, exactly. Like if you're not jazzing up your food and making it delicious, because that's what our taste buds and our brains are set for, right? Like you said, I want to try that Oreo. Yeah, because Oreos look cool. Like they got the visual part of you, they smell a certain way. And then of course, for those who do eat the Oreo, they get that like dopamine response. Like if you're not creating that experience for yourself, you're robbing yourself, right? Like one thing I did with our kids years ago, because we homeschool, I took chicken. I made them take 100 grams of chicken and prepare it 9 different ways. And they actually had to learn about the Maillard reaction. Like I made them do a bunch of research and they had to research chickens too. Like they had to do a lot of work about this chicken project. And then they cooked chicken 9 different ways. And they all finally started to figure out how and why they like different ways of chicken, right? Like they all learned they did not like boiled chicken. They didn't like this kind of chicken. They loved this other kind of chicken. Like, and they had to be really precise with how much salt they used on every preparation of this chicken. And they got to experience chicken like never before, just plain chicken. That's before we add any seasonings. That's before we add any, flavoring agents and fats and all these different things. Like if you're not doing that, I think that you're robbing yourself of an amazing amount of possibility.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, because I don't know if how many people know it just straight up chicken without anything else on it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Like, when's the last time I had chicken by itself? Last week, because I have a dog with some issues. So I was,
Okay.
and I think different like brands, like different farmers. So chicken from different places
Yeah.
taste different too, which I think adds a whole nother because they're fed different thing. And if they're pasture raised and they're out, eating grasses, I think it tastes way better and different.
It's interesting because even within our household, where we know people who have kind of grown up on traditional American food, they eat our food and they're like, wow, it tastes really good. Or like, a standard pear versus the organic pears. It's like, wow, like people don't realize there's a big difference. And some people feel like organic is just this scam to make a bunch of money. Okay, number one, food subsidies, like don't even get me started. But number two, it's not a giant scam, right? It's how it's grown. It's the care that goes into your actual food. And like you had mentioned earlier, it's that disconnect. We are so disconnected from food. Like, I think maybe what all doctors should do is just be like, listen, the first thing I want you to do is just go grow some lettuce, right? Like get people connected again, like what is it like to grow lettuce? Like feel the dirt in your hands, like go through the motions and understand what is food exactly, like the energy, the all of it. Like, I don't know, it's this whole thing.
No, I love that. In fact, I am in the process of evolution of my practice where that will be a thing soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where I do want people to come to where I'll be at and learn like how to cook your own food, how to grow and how to grow like herbs and everything, like their spices, everything. And then you're in control of it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people might cringe and be like, I don't have time for that. Well, do you have time for your health? Do you have time to be sick?
Have you seen that thing recently where they show you the true cost of food, where it's like, I don't know, it's like $1 for a burger or whatever, but then like, compounded over all the years of the health effects, et cetera, the burger was really like $10 or I don't know, some crazy number. Like people aren't thinking about this. They're just thinking about the here and the now. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for living in the moment, but I think where your health is concerned, you've got to be thinking big picture,
You have to. And no one else is going to control that for you. And, like we had already said earlier in this podcast, like the grocery store is not looking out for you.
Yeah.
And neither are all the big companies. And I'm not mentioning any names, but all the big ones, they're not looking out for you. They're looking out for their bottom line. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's going to take your health at some point.
Yeah.
And, oh my goodness, it's just a killer. So tell us a little bit, because I know that you do a lot of your own sourcing and things of that nature. And I think we touched on it briefly in the last podcast, but I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe we could talk about how people, where they live, how they could kind of start sleuthing out where to start getting foods from. Almost
Okay.
like, say
Yeah.
they to someone or somewhere new and they're like, what's the process? So I'd love to hear your
Yeah,
process of like,
absolutely. Okay, so first off, it's important to know I live in California. Um, California is considered like the breadbasket of the country, lots and lots and lots of produce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, one of the biggest dirty secrets of California is the water, right? I actually ended up working with a specialist, and that's all she does is like water, right? This was a long time ago. And she was explaining to me how, the further north you go in California, especially like for someone like me, the more likely you are to be able to successfully consume the product. And it literally just has to do with like the downstream effect of just the water and the contaminants and all these things, right? So first and foremost, you have to ask yourself, how sensitive am I, right? Or as some people might say, how sick am I? For me, I am at the far end of the bell curve, right? I am the 1%. Like, not that I can wear that shirt proudly, but I am the 1%. So I have to think about how far north or south, et cetera, all these different things. Okay. So what does it look like for me? First off, um, am I allergic to the item? Am I intolerant to the item based on testing? If the answer is no, then I can proceed. So let's look at blackberries. That's a really great example, actually. Um, I'm not allergic or intolerant to blackberries. Like, let's say that up front. I started off with like just regular grocery store blackberries, totally made me sick. And it had to do with like corn contamination in the packaging, and then of course the growing process, etc. So then it became going to farmers markets, and I would buy blackberries from different farmers in the area. But of course, for me, it had to be an organic farm, and I would talk to these farmers about the growing practices and what sort of things they were doing, pest control, all that sort of stuff. Because what a lot of people don't know is that, well, number one, organic is not as clean as you would think it would be. There are hundreds of chemicals that are allowed within organic, and USDA organic, like, you did not hear this from me, but please don't think that that is the end all be all. If you see USDA organic, you need to take a step back and ask yourself a lot of questions. Like, that's the big clue for the day, right? And so I would go through these, like, essentially a checklist. Like, do they do this? Do they do that? And the cool thing is I was like calling farms. So there's a website called localharvest.org, and you can find farms in your area. Same thing with like Eat Wild. Eat Wild is really cool for those of you who are looking for like pasture raised meats and eggs and stuff. That's a whole different story on how I found the only corn-free chicken basically in the state of California. But back to the blackberries. So I was, looking at local harvest. I was looking at local farmers markets, and there's a place in our area called Good Eggs as well. And they're like an online grocery store, but what makes them special is they're pulling from local farmers, right? So I had access to the best options. And then I was just trialing each one. Can I eat this one? Nope. 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 Can I eat this one? Ooh, that one hurt less, but nope. And it's just going through this until finally I hit pay dirt, and I got the one farm that I could eat blackberries from. And for me personally, what I would find was that there was a certain region of California where I was having more success than anywhere else, right? So the Capay Valley region, which is, I think, northeast from where we live, I was finding farms where I was getting like more successes. Like, this hurts a lot less. Ooh, I can actually eat like 5 of these, like I was starting to hit pay dirt. And so then I just started focusing all my energy on that region. And that's kind of what the process looked like, right? I started with the whole state of California, and technically the whole country, right? Because, produce is coming from everywhere these days.
Yeah.
And then I just kept narrowing it down, narrowing it down, narrowing it down. Is there something that's working? I found that Oregon, I had better luck with foods from Oregon, you know, and I had better luck with foods from the Cape Valley, and that's how I started finding safe produce. And then, funny story on the chicken. So technically, I can eat egg whites, right? I say technically because I don't really know if I can safely, but it didn't kill me, and I didn't feel like trash. Um, but I started with the website Eat Wild because chickens are fed corn notoriously. Finding a chicken not fed corn anywhere on the planet is one of the hardest feats. Like, I'm just going to tell you that up front. And I happen to be, again, in that 1% where I cannot eat the products of an animal fed what I'm allergic to, especially corn. Like, it's just off the table. So, for those of you that are in the same boat, number one, make sure anything, any kind of meats, they need to be both grass fed and grass finished. A lot of people don't know that there's a difference. Like, if you see something that just says grass fed, that doesn't necessarily mean grass finished,
Yeah.
which means you may not be able to have it. So keep that in mind. But going back to these chickens. So on Eat Wild, I found like a bunch of farms that sold eggs. And I just started going down the list, and for me, I always like have this number in my head. How far am I willing to drive to buy something? For me, it's like I'm willing to drive a few hours. Like LA, no, it's too far. So like 4 hours. I'm willing to go up to like maybe 200 miles. So within a 200-mile radius is how far I'm willing to go. And that's how far I started calling. And I just started calling every farmer until I found the one dude who did not feed his chicken or his chickens corn. And so we started talking about his chickens and how he was doing things. And that's the thing. The more you do this, you make all these cool connections with people and you learn so much because a lot of these farmers will talk your ear off. They're just happy to talk to someone that actually cares, right? And they'll tell you everything you want to know. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, and I use this thing," and if you've got a good farmer. If you come into contact with someone who's like super secretive, do not eat the food. Like hard pass. If you're in my kind of boat, I don't think secrecy is tolerable personally. So I'm always looking for the most transparent, and you'll sort of become like you can like sort of feel people out and be like, are they being upfront with me and all this other stuff. And then he was like, yeah, come on by and, I'll set aside this stuff for you. And turns out like his wife made jam and he's like, hey, my wife made this jam and we want you to have it. And he was like this really cool dude, like we ended up talking in an hour in person by the time I went out and got these eggs from him. And, you learn a lot like about the American egg system and how, when done properly, like you're not supposed to wash the eggs and you can actually store eggs not in the refrigerator. And like, it's this whole thing. Like there's a whole secret world of eggs, you guys, that you don't even know exists until you've talked to 50 egg farmers and you find the one dude. But in my case, then of course I had to then process these eggs and painstakingly make sure there was like no yolk. It was only the egg white. And I did okay. Number one, didn't love the taste. Number two, didn't have a lot of functionality. Number three, had to drive really far to get them. Like it was a bunch of stuff. So like I did it the one time. It was cool. I probably wouldn't do it again, but it did make me think about, one day I would totally be open to raising chickens and doing it myself. We've got a friend who actually developed a very specific feed that's like corn, wheat, and soy free, which is a big deal in chickens.
Wow.
Like she was the only person who's ever done it successfully. And so like we have a starting point, right? We just need a space to grow chickens and do it ourselves. Cause I'm not going to go out and buy eggs like that. And like that ingredient is not worth it to me. Like once you do it, you'll know for you what's worth it. But it's a process. And the more you do it, the more you kind of get good at it and you can understand, the questions to ask and what kind of triggers your system and you can ask these questions and it just becomes part of daily life, I guess, and eventually once you have what's safe for you, don't fix what's not broken. Like stick to your safe foods and keep working on those underlying root causes because I am a firm believer that a lot of people can get out of the diagnosis. I don't think everybody has a pathway to healing. Like I think for some people you were born with certain things and it is what it is. And I think you need to determine what those things were. But then for a lot of people, I think you've got a path out or at least halfway out, right? Like maybe you'll never be able to eat certain things again, but I think certain foods you could still get back. And it's, how hard are you willing to work for that? How committed are you? Because a lot of people, I think, one of the downsides to today's world is that instant gratification. And so you think it's going to be this instant thing. Oh, I'll take out wheat and then I'll be able to eat it in 3 weeks. No, that's not how it works. It's like a really long process, right? Like you didn't get into this boat overnight and you're not going to get out overnight. You always have to remember for however long it took you to get here, it's probably going to take you at least half as long to get out, so keep that in mind as you go forward.
Yeah. I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. And I also think like a lot of people, and I've kind of fallen into this category in my practice of trying to feel people out to see what they'll do and what's, gonna happen on in the long run, because we'll have food sensitivity testing and there's the mild, the moderate, the severe categories. And sometimes in the mild, it's like, is it really a thing? Is it not?
Yeah.
Whereas we get to the severe stuff, then I'm like, yeah, you need to be off this for like at least a year. And then we don't know after that. And a lot of people, if it's like one of their favorite foods, they're like, no,
Yeah.
what do I do? So it's kind of, weighing where you're at. But like Kathlena said, guys, you have to be thinking like, how do I want my health to be? Like the way I feel today, I don't want this.
Yes. Okay. I got to tell you, I was having a conversation with someone recently, and we were both really frustrated because there are some parents without food allergy who then subject their children to foods that their kids should not be eating because it's easier, right? Or the doctor said to do it, or the reaction's not that bad. Let me tell you, if you wouldn't feed your kid rat poison, don't feed them foods that they cannot have. It's that simple, because a lot of people don't understand the concept of giving up a food. For me personally, and I know you probably feel the same way, I am so happy to give up a food if it means I'm not in pain. And I need people to understand that concept. Imagine getting punched in the face every time you ate rice. So what's better, eating the rice and getting punched in the face, or just walking away from the rice, right? Do you want to be doubled over in pain every single day? Or would you rather be able to stand up straight and just be fine? Like people, like they underestimate how good neutral feels.
Yeah.
And they're just so focused on, I don't want to give up this one thing. In fact, it's funny because sometimes I feel bad because a lot of our recipes on our website are like desserts.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm like, people probably think I feed my kids dessert 24/7 the way I talk about it. But that's not true, you guys. I just want to put that out there. Like, I feed them vegetables too. But the reason I do it is because what do most people probably, and you see this in your practice, what do most people tell you they want? Cookies, cake, ice cream, all those comforting things. And you're like, oh, well, you can't have all these things. Therefore, they think I'll never have cake again. Wrong. You'll have cake again. I promise. But should you be eating cake every day? Probably not. Make sure you eat some vegetables first, but like, that's the thing. People think they can't have these things like egg free, right? Like people like, I'll never have, cake again. Hello, you can make cake without eggs. You can make so much without eggs. Like there are literally two things you cannot eat with eggs or without eggs. That's souffle and scrambled eggs. That's it. Everything else is on the table, It's just, do you have the elbow grease to back it up? I know I do. Do you? Like, are you committed? Are you willing? Or are you going to play the I'm too busy game? Are you too busy, or is it just not a priority, right? Like, how are you dealing with priorities? Because for some people, their priority is, I want the latest iPad, I want the latest iPhone, I want a brand new car, and I want all this stuff. I want. And, I know for our household, it's like we drive old cars. We don't buy new clothes and shoes. Like for, I think like 20 years, I had 3 pairs of shoes. Like how many women do you know with 3 pairs of shoes? Well, me, right? It was only recently that I bought like another pair of shoes, like, I mean, it's, that's just how we are, because we prioritize clean water, clean food. Like that's our priority, right? How you prioritize, that's really what it's going to come down to.
I think that's beautifully said, prioritizing, because really we're looking at a nation that has a lot of chronic illness, and pills are the solution at this point. Or I have a lot of people that come to me because my practice is more of the like, hey doc, I don't know what the heck's wrong with me. Can you sleuth some stuff out?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, 9 times out of 10, there's something with food. like, or water or air quality. I mean, the three basics that I see in my world. And it's a lot of times you're going, you know, I almost have to like make a deal with people. Like, all right, we'll avoid this, but you can still have that. But in the same time, I'm like, we're not gonna get you any better if you're still, you know,
Do you tell people that up front? Like, I can't get you better if you're not committed. Like, do people realize that?
Here's the thing, probably for like the first, let's go like 5 to 8 years of my practice, I didn't have that concept in my head solid enough that like I kind of thought like, okay, I can find all these workarounds and sleuth it out. But in the last, like, I would say I've been practicing 15 years. In the last like 8-ish years on that deal, I'm like, no, like you got to be as committed as me. And if you're not, it's bye, because we don't get anywhere. And I'm not gonna.
You know, I appreciate so much, because I think there are so many doctors that have a head so big that they can't walk through a front door, but they wouldn't even be willing to say that much. Like, that I've learned this through time and I've changed XYZ. Like, I think that's what makes you good at what you do. You know, just the ability to, and that willingness to kind of analyze, right? And keep improving, because ultimately your patients win, you know, when you have that attitude. But you're right. Like, if people aren't willing to work with you, like, they're not going to get better. And I just wonder, like, how many people are willing to accept that? I saw this funny thing on the internet that made me think about that, because this lady, she works out and she's got this killer body and she's had like 2 kids, and you know, she shows you the pictures, like, this was me before and this is me after, and she's like ripped, right? And you're like, I want to be ripped. And then of course she's got this little thing where she's like, and you have to do this and this and this and this and this and this, and she's talking to like this new client, and then the new client goes, ooh, I can't do that. Detox diet, how are you? Let's talk, right? Like, and it's the idea that, you know, people just keep going from one thing to the next, looking for that quick fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's, again, going back to instant gratification. Maybe that's one of the biggest lies we've sold society, is instant gratification. It's not real. Like, it's just not.
It's so not. It's so not. I mean, oh, I just had someone literally yesterday email me and was like, I can't keep doing this program anymore, because we are working on a program to work with her energy levels and her fitness. And literally it came down to the food. And we were working on some intolerance, we're working on things. And she's just like, I just need to go with one of these protein powder shake things, because ultimately she wants the weight loss. And I hate that about like food sensitivity stuff and intolerance and allergies, is people are like, I'm just going to drop weight and it's going to be amazing. And there's no work because I'm just going to stop eating anything. And then my weight's going to drop off. How long did it take you to lose weight?
So I might just be in that 1% where that sort of did happen.
Okay.
Within, let's see, the first few, but keep in mind though, I started at a higher number than most people. You know, I was pushing 450 pounds, like sick as a dog, eating almost nothing already, right? Being sick from everything. Within the first couple of months, I dropped the first 50 pounds. And in less than 2 years, I had dropped more than 200 pounds. And that's like zero exercise. But I don't know that that's the normal story or the normal timeline. I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what other people's experiences are. I just know what mine was. And then of course, though, I think sometimes people have this magic idea of weight loss. You know, then I ended up on the other end of the spectrum, where I ended up with wasting, right? There came a point where I was so sick, I lost like 30% of my, once I got down to a lower weight, I had dropped like 30% of my body weight in less than a month. And doctors are like, red flag, you know, because it's like, this is not sustainable. Like, we have to figure out how to get your body to level out, right? And so it's just like, you see the same thing in like disordered eating, right? You see these people and you think, oh, look at how much food they're eating. Oh, they look so great. And then that person will tell you, yeah, because that's the only thing I ate in 3 days. Or, you know, what you don't know is I went and exercised for 5 hours after I ate because I felt so guilty. Like the grass is not as green as you think it is, right? It's, you know, and then of course, I'm not going to lie, it's not always calories in, calories out. You know, there's this misconception that, you know, if you do these perfect things, it's going to work. And I'm sure you're fully aware, because it's like, calorie quality does matter. And of course, for some people, it's like, for me, I can gain up to 15 pounds in 1 week eating a whole heck of a lot less than the required calories, only because it was the wrong foods for me, right? You know, and so it's not always calories in, calories out. It's not this black and white concept. And so I think for people, if you're getting into food sensitivity, et cetera, for the idea of weight loss, I would challenge you to question yourself about that. Like cool, but maybe your priority should just be your health. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a trend. I will definitely full disclosure. I have a lot of
I
people.
didn't know that. That's good to know. Like I
It's a
had no idea.
it's a huge trend. People come in my office and be like, "Doc, I can't lose weight. Let's test my food sensitivities because it's clearly something like that." I'm like, but when it doesn't, when the root of why you're coming in isn't to improve your health and just to get the weight loss, you don't get
Now,
results.
are we talking like how much overweightness are we talking here? Like 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds? Is it a range? Like how overweight are people? Because I really don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a range. It's a range. I wouldn't say that I've had anyone that was in the 400s come in and say that.
Okay.
I'm talking people who are probably more on average 20, 30, 50 pounds overweight, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
They'll be like, I need to do something, and then we get into the weeds of like, okay, we test it and now we've got this kind of thing going on. Where it's like, no, I need let's go to the detox diet, and you hit it.
Yeah.
Like it's like, no, there's so much more to it. And you got the weight off because you put the effort in. I mean, that's the bottom line. If we're going to put the effort into health and sustaining our health, that's when we get results, not when our first and foremost primary thought is, I want to lose weight.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, was I happy at that weight? Of course not. Right. Like I grew up in America, right? Body image is everything. Um, I probably still have like a horrible relationship with, the way I look. And, it's funny because I I want to believe I don't suffer from body dysmorphia, but like I know I do, like deep down inside, because I bought this new pair of pants recently. They're really nice organic sweatpants, by the way. Um, I'm a sucker for organic clothes, but it's always hard to find like the ones I like. And I put them on. And here's the thing, like, and for anybody who feels this way, like maybe hearing this will help you. When you look down at yourself, like that's the biggest you're going to be, right? And so if you look down, like when you're sitting down, it's like you feel gigantic, right? And so I put these pants on and I go, and we have this mirror in our front room, and I go and look, and I'm like, wow, my legs look really skinny. Like they're really small. When you look down, like they don't, when I was in front of that mirror, they were not nearly as huge as they look when I'm looking down, right? And I think that kind of messes with your mind a little bit. So, like kind of explore like what is your problem? Is it you? Like, are you unhappy at this weight? Are you physically uncomfortable at this weight? Are you just happy because you don't like the size number of the pants that you buy? Like, what is it that's bothering you about your weight? Because I think it's two separate issues. Like yeah, okay, like if you're not in a healthy range, you're not in a healthy range. But if you're only a little bit overweight, like maybe you still have food problems, like, but I feel like you still have to work on that element of yourself for yourself, right? So that you can maintain a healthy relationship with food and exercise and your kitchen and all these things. Because, there is such a thing as over eliminating, and there is such a thing as like going too far when you have the wrong like intentions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I do know. In fact, I spent some time in my practice about 3-4 years ago where I stopped doing a lot of the food sensitivity work with folks because I had gotten myself into a point where I was not eating. I had 4 foods I would eat. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not eating anything. It's, everything makes me sick. It's, crazy. I'm just going to do this and I'm safe. And I literally spent like, I'm not kidding. I was drinking smoothies and ended up giving myself food sensitivities to everything I was drinking in that point because I was so stressed out. My gut became super leaky. And now all of the protein powders that I was using to just drink smoothies made me sick. And so my 4 foods, it backfired. But it's this double-edged sword though with the food sensitivities and tolerances and allergies is, how much is going to provoke a issue with the eating
I think
disorder.
that's the crazy part, right? Like there, a lot of people don't know this, but by definition, if you take a person with a food allergy or a food intolerance out of context, like don't even use the word food allergy, and just look at the way that they shop for food, buy food, eat food, how they actually eat food, the whole process, that's actually disordered eating by definition,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the mentality of it, it's such a fine sword. Oh my goodness, and we have a few people that we work with where they have both, and
Mm-hmm.
it's infinitely harder for them, and then of course you have people where it's like, was that an allergic reaction or a panic attack? They're
Mm-hmm.
not even like, for some people they genuinely are not sure within themselves because they got so worked up. And so one of the things that we often talk about is, how to introduce new foods, and we talk about, the calm environment and the this and the that, and like, going about it the right way. But it's such a fine line, and it's something that we can unknowingly instill in our children to be scared to death of food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we start using words like safe, well, that's safe. Well, if we're in the mentality of this is safe, that means we're also in the mentality of that's dangerous, right? And so it's like, oh my goodness, it's so hard because we have to balance how we talk about it and how we think about it. And yet, we're not wrong, right? For me, bell peppers are not safe, right? Like they literally singe my fingers to touch. Like it's not a safe food. And so you can try to talk yourself out of it, but at the same time you're not wrong. And so it's a huge thing. And then like you said, right? Like the backfire effect where we get so worked up and so stressed out, and now we're causing more underlying problems. It's like I tell people all the time, for people like us, one of the worst things is stress. It only makes your condition worse because like you've experienced, then of course you end up with these other problems, and people don't understand it. And then they're like, I just keep getting more sick and I just keep developing all these other problems. It's like, hold on, because what you really need is a lifestyle overhaul at this point. Like yes, you do have innate allergy and intolerance issues. You have to avoid those foods, at least for now. But now we've got to look at how you're managing your life, because that's actually having a greater amount of harm on you than those foods were, or at least than they would. But getting people to see that, that's the real challenge, and getting them to work through it and being willing to work through it. And then, of course, like you said, you had that hippie mom. I don't think you can be a hippie mom and have a new car and a walk-in closet and all these things, right? Like you can't be a hippie mom and be a victim to today's society. And I think a lot of people haven't broken out of that. And again, like I said when we were talking earlier, it's like all these systems that seem disconnected. No, the car you drive and how you shop lifestyle wise is totally related to your stress amount, which is totally related to all these other things. Like if you're putting in 100 hours so that you can keep up with the Joneses, how stressed out are you?
Right.
Like
Right.
it all goes together, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah. Sadly, it is a true story. Ah, life.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So I'm just, from how you're talking about all these things, I'm guessing that you have resources on goraise.net that talks all about all of this stuff, and like also like a checklist or something some folks can use in terms of how to search out like good quality farmers and things.
Yeah, so we do. And that's going to be, so we have multiple levels of membership. One is just recipes, and that's for people who actually have their diagnosis and their safe raw materials. It's a great option. And then, of course, there's silver for like, you're still trying to figure things out, but maybe you're not a complex case. And there's platinum. And that's where all those kinds of resources are going to be, where we talk about how to get in touch with farmers, all the things you're going to ask. One of the coolest series we did, it was a 5-part series. So it's like 4 hours of content on just the diagnosis journey. What does that look like when you're a complex case? Because, it's like, it's not just one fork in the road, right? It's this tree. It's so many branches, so many different pathways that you could be walking down. And so we talk about all these different things, and, things to ask your GP about, and, how to keep a food journal, and how to not only work with a medical team, but be your own advocate. I think a lot of people miss that part of the puzzle. It's like we look at people with initials after their names, and we want to just give them the responsibility of us and be like, here, take care of me. No,
No.
that's like the worst thing you could do, because guess what? Even a doctor as good as you don't live inside my body 24/7, right? Like you can't advocate for me as well as I can advocate for me, only because I have like the intimate details that you don't have. And you only get those details if I speak up and I advocate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm so huge on that. In fact, I like my whole thing now is helping people become their own best doctors, because it's helping you get your voice so you can own your health, because that is so on point. Like even as myself as a naturopath, I don't want people to come in and be like, hey doc, fix me. I want you to be like, hey, I just need a partner and someone to help me and give me, throw some back and forth. I'm not
a partnership. It's got to be. If it's not a partnership, I think that maybe you're in the wrong boat, because, if you're letting somebody else drive the car, like you don't know where they're taking you. They could be taking you to a back alley in the middle of nowhere to like do who knows what, like in those horror movies that I'm too afraid to watch. Like you don't know where they're driving you.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta be in the driver's seat. And that's where you get results too. And that's kind of one of the things where, when I was a newbie doc, I was like, oh, I could fix everybody. I could do this. And then I started
like I was there too. Oh my goodness. I used to think I could help everyone. I was so convinced I was going to help so many people and do so much. And I finally learned the hard way. Like, number one, it's got to hurt enough. If people aren't in enough pain, they don't change. And then of course there's that responsibility element. I have learned the hard way that like even people in the food allergy world who know better, they're like, hey, has anybody called this company? Does anybody know if McDonald's burger buns are soy free? I'm like, you guys, why are you even eating at McDonald's? Yes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I was exaggerating with that statement, but I'm not. And these people know better. And so it's like, we can only help the people who are eyes wide open, willing to get in the driver's seat and actually drive the bloody car, no matter how difficult the terrain.
This is hands down. So folks, if you've learned nothing from this podcast today, you got to jump in the driver's seat and take control. Like you've heard from me over and over again, but now you hear Kathleen saying the same thing. And I mean, she didn't get to where she is today without doing that. Because if she would have let someone else take control, I don't know, would you still be alive?
Probably not. The funny thing is like, I mean, it's not funny, but when I was a lot younger and a lot more naive and a lot more programmed like an American, I absolutely thought people with initials, they were the only ones who, had the information or knowledge or whatever. But at the same time, my personality type is don't tell me what to do. And I'm very, very driven. I'm big into research and all these different things. And I wasn't afraid to challenge. Like, are you sure? Like, really? Because everything you're telling me doesn't align with what I experience. Therefore, are you sure you're right? And they were trying to push themselves off like they were the end all be all. And it's like, yeah, I don't believe you, and I think when you approach a lot of things with skepticism, I think there's nothing wrong with that, like you have to be willing to stand up and say, I want a second opinion. I want a third opinion. I want my own opinion. Because had I stayed in that system, oh my goodness, I'd be just as sick, if not sicker, right? Like they would have killed me a long time ago. Not going to lie. They really would have, because I was already pushing death's door, not even knowing it. Now looking back, I can see that, but I already know the kind of interventions they would have prescribed. They would have killed me off. Like, no question.
Yeah. No, it's a sad reality for a lot of people. And really, I can't stress enough how much being skeptic, being questioning. I love it when people come in my office and they're kind of like, well, why would you do that? And why would you do that? And it doesn't, they're like, I don't mean to be annoying. I'm like, you're not annoying. I love it. Actually. I'm like, now here's someone who's committed to figuring, things out, but question everything. And especially the food system. I mean, that is hands down from top to bottom. Like, where was it grown? Like you said, regions, we've covered some great stuff today, like regions where things are grown, water quality, then looking at, what else is in there? How did it get to you? All of these different things. It's absolutely important to know the whole chain all the way down. And look at me, I talked about being corn today because I researched this company that came out with these chips that had this, you know, amazing background, but there are things you can't figure out sometimes unless you actually do call the company. And I will be honest, I did not call the company on this one. The background was like, okay, I'm going to try it. It's good enough at this point. Now, granted, I am not anaphylactically, you know, allergic to corn, and that's a whole nother story. But even then, if it looks good on paper, you sometimes have to dive further. And I probably should have been diving.
No, it's you're right. And I know for myself, like I am not as intensely researched for my own products the way I used to be, because I've sort of reached this point where it's like I already know what's out there. Like the only time I really jump in anymore now is like if it's a brand new company.
Yeah.
Like brand new off the, you know, and then I'll like really investigate. But beyond that, it's like I already have my answers. Like I already know you. I know you, and I know you, and I know you, and I know what you're all doing, you know?
And then who owns the umbrella of them?
Oh my, don't even get me started on that. Like, that's what we're talking about next month is who owns who. And the way it all just get, like, you think it's a variety? No, friends. It is not. There is no variety in food. Like, it's so small. And then you wonder why you're paying $12 for a 10-ounce bottle of jam, because it's actually like real food. That's why you had to pay $12 for it.
Amen. Yeah. Oh, yep. That's it. Next month, guys. Now you know, you know what's up. Kathlena, thank you so much for just all of it, all of the insights, all of your information. I know we're helping people. I know people are listening to this and being like, oh, I need to start paying more attention. So next month, we're going to talk about who owns all the big umbrellas,
right?
And drop some serious bombs on you guys. So you guys stay tuned for the next episode of Kathleen and Janine Talk About Food.
Kathleen and Janine for the next 5 years. Stay tuned, right?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm going to cut it off for day and we'll go from there.
Cool.
Hey, Health Junkie, do you want to take the conversation to the next level based off of the Health Fix podcast? Well, you're in luck. Head over to the Facebook group for this podcast called Find Your Health Fix. There you'll find me answering questions, but also dropping in all kinds of tidbits and keeping the conversation going all about health. And you'll never know what you might learn and what might open up a door to a new you.